Hey beautiful people, it's iconic. The Blood Knight is dropping July 13th, and today we got a little bit of a sneak preview. Stick around and find out why I think it might be maybe a middle of the road class, but let's check it out. Yes. So we got a nice little update with some patch notes attached to it, and we're gonna go through it. There's a nice little trailer and a few more things that are actually coming with the Blood Knight here that we didn't know about. So let's get into it. Introducing the newest Diablo Immortal class, Blood Knight. The monstrous new Blood Knight class is joining the fight for Sanctuary on July 13th. Learn about its origin and the skills, legendary items, and more that help the members of this ancient order annihilate their cardinal foe. Cardinal foe, I wonder who that is. Out of the shadows that cling so desperately to Sanctuary steps an accursed ally, the Blood Knight. Beginning July 13th, you can play as this elegantly dark class in Diablo Immortal. In the meantime, browse this article's content for a showcase of the Blood Knight's origin, skills, legendary items, and more. All right, so we've got a nice little trailer here. Let's check it out and see. What is the Blood Knight exactly? Okay. Ooh. Got the glowing red sword going on. Oh, what is on his face? Oh, that was nasty. Is that some kind of transformation? What is that? Ooh, don't mess around. Don't play with the Blood Knight. Yeah, he kind of looks like the Devil May Cry dude right here. Ooh, and we get a little gameplay. Okay. Got a long ass pole, it looks like. Yeah, it's a transformation. So what is he, a vampire or what is he? That definitely looks like some Count Dracula type shit. All right, that's a pretty good trailer. Not gonna lie, that's a good way to hype it up. So let's take a look. We got a couple more things here. We get a little bit of the origin story, it looks like here too as well. According to tomes quilled by Sanctuary scribes centuries ago, the first Blood Knight was a man named Fernam. He was assigned to protect a lord in the city of Gia Kul, who was infatuated with vampires and their immortality. Ah, vampire. I knew it. One day, a vampire imprisoned in the Lord's Keep broke free, killed the Lord, and gravely wounded Fernam during escape. Fortunately, the Lord's top mage, a premier scholar on the subject of vampirism, had performed a ritual on Fernam to stop the spread before he was transformed into a feral, mindless thrall. The mage was successful in keeping him alive, but instead of granting immortality, Fernam unexpectedly inherited some of the vampire's power. The mage had been mortally wounded in the scuffle, and with his dying breath taught Fernam how to perform the ritual that saved his life. At any moment, Fernam could succumb to his newfound darkness and transform indefinitely into a vampiric thrall, the destiny all Blood Knights must grapple with. After cheating fate, Fernam took his lord's wealth and moved into the catacombs below the keep. This would become the first training ground for future Blood Knights. He passed on knowledge of the curse, suspending ritual that saved his life, along with the way of his preferred weapon, the pole arm. They could have come up with a better name, the pole arm. I like this little backstory though. We're not going to read the whole thing here, but that's actually a pretty cool backstory. Assume the mantle of Blood Knight. Starting on July 13th, there will be 3 ways you can pick up a polearm and impale your way through burning hell. So not just class swap. Let's see what we got. Create a new character. Yeah, of course you could create a new character and do the Blood Knight class. Okay. Using the new and improved class change, you can transfer your character from its existing class to the Blood Knight. We're removing the class change cooldown. That's what I'm talking about. For the first 3 weeks after the Blood Knight's release, so everyone has a chance to harvest blood and become an abomination. More information coming on July 11th. Enter the Crimson Plane, a 3-week-long event like the Fractured Plane, but everyone plays as a Blood Knight. You'll earn a Blood Knight cosmetic and legendary items from completing it. So they really are hyping this up. I mean, we haven't had a new class in Diablo for such a long time at this point that it's actually wild it's coming to Diablo Immortal before Diablo 4. I mean, rightfully so, it's been out for longer, obviously, but, you know, I didn't think this was, when you really think about it, the new class would come to Diablo Immortal. So, a few different ways to do it. Crimson Plane, class change, and obviously make a new character. And then it's going to go through the skills here. So let's see what we have. For primary attack, you've got Ravage, unleash a barrage of polearm thrusts and sweeps, dealing damage to an enemy and 25% as much to all other enemies. Interesting. It looks like just like a lunge. Or it says sweeps, but he's stabbing him in the picture here. Annihilation, it's the ultimate. Enhance Ravage for 12 seconds, gaining an additional pole arm in your offhand that increases your range and causes the final attack to knock back enemies. While empowered, Annihilation deals increased damage. You also gain a shield that absorbs damage equal to 20% of your maximum life for 3 seconds. All right, it's not a bad ultimate. It sounds pretty good. And then we have Shadow's Edge. Wield a blade of pure shadow energy that can be used to slash at nearby enemies, dealing damage. If there are no nearby enemies, the blade will be thrown a short distance. Okay, so there's the kind of mid-range action with that primary attack. It sounds like that's probably going to be the better of the two. Obviously, have to wait and see, but just off the description there, it sounds like Shadow's Edge might be a little better. And then the ultimate is Shadow's Embrace. Enhance Shadow's Edge for 12 seconds, throwing a volley of 5 shadow blades that penetrate enemies, dealing damage for each blade that strikes an enemy. You also gain a shield that absorbs damage equal to 20% of your maximum life for 3 seconds. So already both of your ultimates can give you a shield. Maybe the Blood Knight's a little bit tanky. You've got Spear Flurry. This is first skill. Channel a flurry of polearm attacks, dealing damage to enemies in front of you. Upon activation, if no enemies are nearby, you will dash forward a short distance before the onslaught begins. Using Spear Flurry slowly consumes its energy, which recovers while Spear Flurry is not in use. Then we have Wave of Blood. Expel a wave of blood that knocks back enemies, dealing damage, maximum 2 charges. Okay. Tendrils of Blood. Shoot bloody tendrils into nearby enemies, dealing damage. Activate again to pull in inflicted enemies to you, dealing additional damage. You know, some of these attacks sound a little slow. We'll have to see them in action, but it seems like that could take a little bit of time there. Siphon of Blood. Continually siphon blood from the prey around you, dealing damage to all nearby enemies while also healing yourself for 15% of the damage done. Using Siphon Blood slowly consumes its energy, which recovers while Siphon Blood is not in use. So we've got a channeled ability. Sanguinate. Liquefy into a bloody form for 2.5 seconds, increasing your movement speed by 50%. Activate again to coagulate your being and rush forward, dealing damage to enemies you pass through. Yeah, that one sounds pretty cool. Umbral Lance. Hurl a lance of pure darkness that penetrates through enemies, dealing damage. Charging longer increases range and damage. I like the sound of that one as well. Swarm of Bats. Call a cloud of bats to attack enemies for 8 seconds, continually dealing damage. The cloud of bats will pursue enemies and can be redirected by activating the skill again. You definitely got to have some bats. You know, you can't be a vampire Blood Knight in the game and not have some bats. Whirling Strike. Whirl your pole arm around you multiple times, dealing damage to nearby enemies. Maximum 2 charges. Mephitic Cloud. Release a toxic cloud around you for 6 seconds that confuses enemies, causing monsters to attack each other and restricts targeting for players. I wonder how that works in PvP. Does he have a bunch of skills or something? Like, is this more than normal? I feel like I've read a lot of them already. Skewer. Skewer an enemy with your polearm and then slam the enemy into the ground, dealing damage to all other nearby enemies and stunning them for 3 seconds. Shroud. Shroud yourself and nearby allies in darkness for 8 seconds, causing shadowy apparitions of yourself to emerge every 1.5 seconds to unleash your primary attack against your enemies. These are definitely some interesting skills. Abomination. Consume all your anger to transform into an unholy abomination for 15 seconds, increasing your damage done and replacing your skills with Blood Rush and Shattering Fists. Generate anger each time you damage an enemy with your primary attack or use a skill. So I wonder what the anger is used for. Maybe that increases your time that you can be in this is the transformation here, it looks like. Blood Rush. Shed your mortal flesh and move forward a short distance, dealing damage to enemies in your path. Okay, there can't be that. It seems like this is a lot of skills. Maybe I'm tripping. Shattering Fists. Unleash a series of massive blows, dealing damage to all nearby enemies with every third attack, causing a knockback. Transfusion. Fortify yourself or an ally with enriched blood, granting a shield for 3 seconds that absorbs damage. Additionally, harmful effects will be removed from the target player, and they will become immune to harmful effects for the duration of the shield. Targeting an ally with transfusion causes you to rush to their aid and cast transfusion on both of you. Transfusion can be activated again 1 additional time within 5 seconds of the first cast. So there's a lot of shields going on here. You know, I wonder. Seems like maybe the Blood Knight might be a little tanky. All right, we've got shred through your opponents with class-specific legendary items. 60. So they're not going to slowly roll out the essences for this class. They're just going to give us all the essences right up front, which is great. The only thing I will say is it's going to take a little while to figure out what builds are viable, what works, what doesn't work. Obviously with this class, so there's going to be a lot of testing going on to see what the best skills are, the best essences are. A lot of these, so I'm not going to go through them all. I'm just seeing if anything sticks out here. Root Vein Male. So Tendrils of Blood now tethers you to an enemy, immobilizing you and stunning them for up to 3 seconds. The blood tether continually deals damage to the linked enemy and can be broken at any time by activating the skill again. That sounds like that could be potentially monstrous in PvP, especially if you're coordinated and kind of working with somebody else. You throw that tendril, you immobilize them, they can't move, and then you have somebody else run up on them and finish them off. Interesting. For the helm, the one that's popping out real quick to me is Horns of the Hex. Siphon blood is no longer channeled and now moves with you, dealing damage and draining life of nearby enemies. We've got another shield, Pain is Purpose. Siphon blood now instantly drains the life of nearby enemies to grant yourself or an ally a shield that absorbs damage, but it no longer heals you. Reverent Hunter could be interesting. Siphon blood also slows enemy movement speed by 30%, absorbing their vigor, and increases your movement speed by 10% up to 30%. I don't even know how to say this one, but Bardiche of Below. Whirling Strike now unleashes a blast, dealing damage to enemies caught in the path. Ageless Cross. Umbral Lance now causes shadow spears to randomly fall from the sky within an area, dealing damage to enemies. Umbral Lance now throws a shadow lance forward into the ground, damaging enemies in its path. Activate again to rush the polearm, stunning and dealing additional damage to any enemies in your path. Reliable Peril. Abomination also conjures an unholy aura around you for the duration of your transformation, dealing damage every second to nearby enemies. Solemn Snare. Swarm of bats now shroud you in a fog of blood mist, increasing your movement speed and making you untargetable while also dealing damage to nearby enemies. So yeah, definitely some interesting essences here. You know, my first thought from just watching the trailer and then seeing some of the gameplay footage today, I wasn't quite sold on maybe how powerful the Blood Knight could be, but I haven't had a chance to play the class or anything like that. So maybe my thought process is a little bit wrong, but I'm going to share for you in a little bit just my initial thoughts from seeing some of the gameplay. All right, we've got a new 5-star legendary gem, Spiteful Blood. Taking damage while below 50% life causes Spiteful Blood to surge through you for 4 seconds, increasing your damage done by 30% and making you invulnerable to primary attacks from other players. In addition, when Spiteful Blood triggers, you gain an absorb shield equal to 160% of your base damage. Spiteful Blood cannot trigger more than once every 20 seconds. Wow, that's a juiced up version of Frozen Heart. The only thing is, I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is going to be at rank 10. So, have to see what the other ranks on this are, but I got a Frozen Heart and was debating on using that, and this might be a much better version of it. There's a short story here if you want to check that out. And then there was a live stream, and they say there's more to come once the Blood Knight actually drops. So looking forward to see what else is coming to the game at that point. All right, so I've been hyped to see this class come out for a while. Just something new and different to shake up the game. And again, my first initial thoughts from just seeing the gameplay footage and watching the trailer earlier today, I thought that actually the Blood Knight looked maybe a little mid. Maybe it's deceptive because we're seeing some low-level gameplay. So potentially maybe not all the essences are unlocked. We don't know what type of resonance or legendary gem power that character had that we were seeing. But I feel like it's in a weird space with it being a mid-range character. So it looks like a lot of the attacks are actually still fairly close range. We don't know what type of damage reduction it's getting. I don't think I've seen that anywhere. But if it's only 15% like the range classes get, or if it's still getting the melee damage reduction, I'm assuming it's somewhere maybe in between or in the middle, or it could potentially just be what the range classes get. I think it could potentially be squishier than what we're thinking. Although there's a bunch of shields, and maybe that's for a reason. Because you are in this in-between state where you're in melee range, not in melee range, you know. And then I felt like some of the skills that I was seeing just weren't up to snuff. And maybe they didn't have any legendary essences going. I'm not sure. It's hard to say. But from what I saw just from the gameplay footage, it seemed like a lot slower class. And I think playing in between that range, that mid-range and that close range, is going to lead to some trouble. Like if you can't do as much melee damage as, say, a Crusader or a Monk or a Barb, but then you don't deal as much damage at range as a Demon Hunter or a Wizard, it's going to leave that character, I feel like, in an awkward place. Now I'm talking mainly for PvP is kind of what I'm getting at here. PvE, we all know, is really easy. Is it going to be the highest damage dealing class out there? I don't think so. Just from the skills and what I've seen, but all of this remains to be seen. This is just my take, a little bit of speculation. I know I'll be class swapping once it comes out. We switched to the Wizard here. I still got to get you guys some more builds, but I'm gonna try to play the Wizard as much as I can here until that time comes. I'll get you guys some more content, but July 13th, we will be swapping over to the Blood Knight and getting you guys some information as soon as we can on it. If you found this information valuable, if you enjoy the content, you already know what to do. Until the next one, I'll see you guys later. Peace.